Namaskar, this is my second lecture on the civilizational battle that's going on, the dissemination of population. Let's again rethink the concept of genocide as given by Lemkin. Lemkin says genocide is not the immediate destruction or killing of a large group of people. It's the slow, coordinated and planned effort to destroy the central ingredients of life that sustains an ethnic community or a group or a national group. And it's, of course, the intentionality is involved here. It's the slow dissemination of the essential foundations of life. Pandit Janaraj, who was the author of the third Raj Tarangani, a historian, a Kashmiri Pandit, interestingly 600 years ago, said something that is very relevant to us. Suhabhatta, who was a Brahmin Pandit, Kashmiri Pandit, he converted to Islam and he started destroying the essential foundations of life. Janaraj says, just as a tree, its roots and branches are cut, that's how he's doing to all our icons, our temples, and even the foundations of life, like what sustains us, burning our houses and so forth. And the term that he uses is very important for our declining Hindu population. He says jati vidhwans. Jati is race. So it's ultimately the destruction of the race. That's why it's not a one-time killing or a hate crime or anything of that sort. And I discussed all of this in my previous videos. Now, what do? We talked about this earlier, that just giving birth to a lot of more children is not possible. As it is, we know that with industrial revolution, people who are trying to globalize the concept of development, nuclear families have shrunk. And it is the same in Europe because it's not sustainable. First of all, people used to live in kinship structures, in large households. They were not nuclear families. And the production system, everything was produced at home. That's what Aristotle calls the home, the oikos, the place of production. Clothes, food, everything. We do not do that. The market has expanded vastly. We get our food from the market. We get our clothes from the market. So the household is no longer a place of production. It's a place of reproduction. What is reproduction? The rearing of children, the giving birth and the rearing of children. There's a huge labor involved in that, and it's unpaid labor. This has been discussed by feminist theories over and over again. Now, that kind of giving birth to 6-7 children just because the population is disseminating is probably no longer possible. It is possible if you have a large support system, if the state supports you, gives you free daycare, because we know that, again, the same thing that I said in the last video, women are part of the wage labor, and it's not possible for them to take care of so many children and be part of the wage labor because our economic system has changed. And unless the daycares are free, etc., it's not possible. Same thing happened in Europe. In fact, Thomas Malthus said that as food production rises by arithmetical proportion, human population will rise by geometrical proportion. Then they'll reduce and come to an equilibrium through war, famines, and disease. But of course, his theory has a lot of problems. It's a faulty theory. Later, Amartya Sen showed that the famine was not natural. It was not a natural cycle. It was intentionally caused through entitlement failure. But we are not going there. We are talking about what to do with our civilizational struggle. It's people who carry civilization and culture. The same with religion. We have art and architecture through which civilization flows. Our temples and so forth, many have been destroyed. Same with the Incas and so forth, older civilizations. But these temples were again built by people. They were planned. So we have to have people to carry on the civilization. And while giving birth is one of the options, it cannot be, it's not feasible always. There are lots of negatives. Who's going to look after all these children? Then there's education. Nowadays, the resources we spend on one child is much more than what they used to spend in earlier times. In addition, child labor is prohibited. Little boys used to work in factories and so forth. That is no longer possible. So all these problems are there. Again, that is one of the options. So what do we do? Apart from the solutions I gave in the previous video, let's talk about Shulamit Firestone, who was a feminist, radical feminist, and she said that we have to do away with gender by letting everyone reproduce. Why can't we take that? Have artificial reproductions. If single mothers want to give birth to yodhas, to fighters who will do civilizational fight for Hinduism, for our Sanatan Dharma, for our culture, for sustaining our culture, don't ostracize them. Bring them, make them inclusive, make them part of society, and try to include them in our society and support them. Is there example of this in our mythology slash history? Again, I hate to do that, but I'm doing it because that's the word that we use. Mythology, what is history? Anyway, for now I'm using that word. Sita was a single mother, but she had a lot of support system in the ashram, in Valmiki's ashram. So we have to provide that if that's what she wants to be, a career of a civilizational warrior. And we have to actually give her both the emotional and the economic material support for her to bring it up, if that's what she wants. Then there are other ways. For example, yes, men can be career of children if like Shulamit Firestone, again, it's a bit sci-fi. Again, the sperm doesn't have to be, we will do other ways of reproduction, and these can be warriors. Then the concept of cyborg that I talked about, half human, half machine. And again, there are examples of that in our mythology. There's a very interesting TED talk in which a neuroscientist is talking about how prosthetic limbs and so forth, they're giving rise to the concept of avatar. What is an avatar? Isn't the concept of avatar something hybrid between divinity and mortality? So mortality, we are all mortal. We live on this earth for a very limited time, but the divine is eternal. So the concept of avatar is a kind of hybrid. We can give rise to hybrid organisms, human beings who have intelligence. Their organism. What is an organism? That which grows and that which will die. And machines which are made, and they won't grow. That's one of the fundamental difference. But we can make these combinations like cyborgs who will be our fighters. Again, these are all sci-fi things, but they are not that outrageous, rather. And then we also have, we can also bring in the concept of, as I said, the concept of robots who are going to be careers. All these we have to think, we have to be creative. No one has done enough research, I think, what our mythology tells us. We have to read text in a specific way because after all, as I said before, this is a civilizational war. And while giving birth, more births to generate more children who will be career of the civilization is probably one solution, but it's not the only solution. There are other solutions that we can think about. As I said, include mothers who are single mothers whose children belong to the Sanatan Dharma, and don't ostracize them. Also, if they want to give birth through artificial means, then encourage them, give them that support network. That's why Sita could bring up, because she had the support network of a lot of people in the ashram. Yes, of course, she was not in the traditional nuclear family, dad, mom, bringing up children. So there you go. And then also artificial intelligence and robot. And the other thing is we have to be very specific about really encouraging people to do science and technology. Again, I'm not opposed to doing mantras, prayers, going to the temples. All these are very important. These are practices through which a civilization is carried on. But science and technology, if we have to globalize, if we have to sustain our culture, our civilization, our art and architecture. This time when I went to Kashmir, I saw some beautiful architecture, many of which are broken, many of which are being mended, but they are not that good. Let's invest on that. That's our civilizational careers of our civilization. But again, we need human beings, and if there is a dissemination of that population, it's declining through various reasons, not just genocide, then we have to do something about it, and this is a genuine concern. My point is, just giving birth is not the only solution. Also, it has its negativity. Let's be creative. Let's try to think beyond the box. Let's try to reinterpret and rethink our own mythologies, and then come to a solution. So that's my second lecture. I'm going to continue with this. Please subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and if you can, please donate to Swaka Harshita so that we can go on making videos, and we will be more radical because we are trying to show how feminist theory is involved in all of this, whether it's genocide or it's about Jati Vidwans and how to bring back the population and not win, that's a very invasive word, how to sustain our culture, because after all, as we said, it's a civilizational battle. Thank you. Namaskar.